from Doinb as we prepare ourselves for this first phase of pick ban. Again, one last game here. It is interesting to see IG have so much more tape, so it feels like we know a little bit more about this team than NIP, and but still a lot of uncertainty about where these teams really do stand. And so this game, this series overall, could really tell us a lot, as we've already seen an early Sejuani picked up here for Jiejie. That was banned away last time around.
Indeed it was, and it makes sense. It's definitely the highest priority jungler in the game left, outside of Vi, that is yet to be picked in this series, and it still does a lot, but there we go. It's the Yorick, early picked here for Shanji. The gauntlet's been thrown down here for TheShy to pick something crazy as well. You talked about the Nidalee. We'll see if he wants to go for something a little bit crazy into this Yorick matchup, but we have seen what Yorick can do at the pro level and just how crazy it can get at multiple levels. So it's going to pair that up with the Maokai. The main answer there obviously is the facilitative jungle, but a very interesting start that we're going to have to see how IG answers.
Yeah, now apologies for not being the greatest Yorick versus Nidalee lane counter 1v1 matchup knower, but this was what TheShy played against Hoya on Thunder Talk in game number 3, a decisive format. It was the same matchup, Nidalee into Yorick, so an angle has opened up here as Rookie locks in the Azir. I imagine it works. You have a bunch of auto attack resets in your kit. You can jump over the cage. And you can do a pretty good job at harassing early on. I would really love this to show up. And there it is. For the third series in a row, we're going to get TheShy Nidalee. This time in a game 3, responded by Doinb on Sylas.
Yeah, I think Sylas is really nice here. Not to overshadow the Nidalee, because the Nidalee is super fun to call out, but Sylas into Azir has always been a relatively good matchup. The setup, though, coming in from IG, Sejuani Azir is so consistent in the back half of the game. You're trying to answer with the Maokai and the Sylas. You obviously don't want, Sylas to be taken on the other side of this, but how can you not focus on Yorick and Nidalee? I mean, we already saw what happened when these two champions faced off against each other. Shanji, at least from a mechanic perspective, I think is different from Hoya as a player, and so I would imagine this matchup ends up going at least a little bit differently, but to pretend like I'm not excited would be a complete lie. I am incredibly excited to see where this ends up going.
Yeah, this definitely was Nidalee favored last time the matchup was played, although obviously, as you say, Shanji, a different player in its entirety as we get to that second phase of pick ban. Looks like bot lane is going to have to be the focus here. Meiko hovered the Pantheon, and it seems like NIP actually are respecting that. They don't want that to go through. As well as the Kalista taken away for Gala. So a lot of those aggressive champions for him not available. Whereas Leaf still has a good go of things in terms of hyper carry, AD backliners that can potentially help out the rest of his squad. Things like Sivir, things like Jinx and Aphelios.
Yeah, I definitely would expect to see some Jhin priority at some point in this game, probably for Gala. We'll see if Leave, I doubt Leave would want to opt into it. Again, I definitely would expect much more of an aggressive carry for him. He's just never really been somebody that has loved to be taken out of the comfort zone, but Jhin is actually the only champion that he has played so far this split that is still up and available. So we will see if he wants to go for that. Of course, we know he can play Jinx, we know he can play Aphelios, but there's been a big effort. You don't want to talk about hovers. It is going to be the Jhin. It is going to be the Jhin here.
Leave a little bit more utility focus here. I will say, in general, the damage department for NIP may be lacking slightly, especially when you're expecting Shanji to be in a side lane for the majority of this game. We've seen Yorick just purely focus on split pushing for the most part. Last night, we saw a Yorick win MVP by having a total of 1 kill, 0 deaths, and 1 assist in a match. So that is kind of the style I think that NIP want to go for. The wave clear situation will be interesting to follow. I imagine like a static shiv is probably going to be necessary for a Jhin here. Response is going to be Zyra Khan for Gala and Meiko, some tried and true. We'll see what ppgod wants to wrap up here on R5.
Yeah, I would be shocked if this isn't some big playmaker. It really does feel like they're going to be struggling to make any big plays around the map right now. Nico makes sense. I saw the Bard hover. That also makes sense here. Just anything that can be a little bit more proactive for ppgod. But I quickly want to touch upon the Zyra Khan. I think this perfectly fills out the rest of IG's draft. We talked in game 2 about how IG's draft was super comfortable, and I think they've taken that to the next level. These have got to be some of the most played champions that these players have played historically. Like, Gala has played so much Xayah, Meiko has played so much Rakan, Rookie has played so much Azir, Jiejie has played so much Sejuani, and then you have TheShy playing something crazy. This feels like comfort, but it is going to be the Karma, actually, as the answer on the other side, playing for a bit more poke there down in the bottom.
interesting setup here for NIP. It's a lot of weird stuff thrown together. I think in general, though, they're focused on picks with things like the Jin and the Sylas in side lanes and the Maokai even throwing setups up and side laning. Whereas IG, they still want a team fight. That still seems to be the name of the game for them. A lot of big damage in the 5v5, a lot of heavy crowd control, and this time they do have an easier go button with the Rakan as well as the Sejuani for some simpler engages this time around. I feel like last time they were maybe lacking in that department.
Yeah, I think for Ninjas in Pyjamas, this is a really tough draft to execute. I'm not saying that they can't or that there is no upside to this. I think their early game is really going to dictate just how well they do in this game. If you're sitting in a spot where Yorick is losing considerably and Sylas is not able to get on the map and move, it's pretty difficult. So we will see. But, you know, I think the clock is definitely going to be ticking for Ninjas in Pyjamas much more so than it is for Invictus.
Yeah, the Yorick can always throw things a little bit into chaos, as the side laning threat always going to be there. Very interested to see what the top lane 1v1 is going to look like. Nidalee versus Yorick. Again, we saw this earlier on in the season when IG played against ThunderTalk. This time TheShy gets another go of things. We're on to the rift for game number 3. IG against NIP, winner take all here in the first round robin of Group Ascent.
All right, and we are on the map for game number 3. It's do or die. I think we've done a good job highlighting that Yorick is very important this game, but one of the more underrated parts of this draft for me is going to be the Karma. I think Jin Karma is drafted specifically to make sure that the early game safety that Xayah Rakan typically have and their ability to skirmish and fight in the mid game, it's not nearly as consistent. Obviously, this top lane matchup is going to draw a lot of attention for a reason. I already see some damage coming down from TheShy. But I think NIP is likely going to have to win this game through multiple methods. I think Doinb's in an okay spot. You know, Azir's not going to be able to contest the Sylas early. I think Leave and ppgod, like I said, are in a pretty decent spot. So certainly not an awful situation, but the clock is definitely going to be ticking for them. You do not want to have to face an Azir, Sejuani, Xayah in the late game.
Absolutely not, especially in that full 5v5 setting, as we're opening things up with a bit of a late invade here. As Aki and the rest of NIP hunting to try and secure an early Raptor camp steal. Jiejie is in the area. Both junglers have smite. Gonna be another 50-50 early, and it is secured by Aki, combined with the Bramble Smash. He is level 2 first, immediately going in on Rookie, combined with the Abscond Abduct. Flashes over to try to get Rookie down, as that's gonna be a lot of summoner spells burned. Meiko has to burn his flash as well. 3 of them off of IG early.
Yeah, you use a flash, and you use a flash, and you use a flash. It's a lot of summoner spells, and it's heal burned by Meiko as well. A lot of resources expended, and the play's not done.
Rookie. He's got no flash, and he's got no life. It's Aki picking up first blood. NIP out firing in game 3.
Aki's early games continue to light up this series. What a dynamic play made by Aki here on the Maokai. I did not expect him to even look for something like that, but you know, we talked about it. Rookie just a little bit too far forward at times. You know, we said that earlier in the day. Aki taking advantage of it for first blood.
Another instance of Aki striking first in the matchup over Jiejie. This time it came off of that late invade, and Rookie, what are we doing? He's on a ward, man.
No explanation for, you know, what could be happening here. Rookie gifting first blood over to NIP, if you will, but certainly all hope is not lost. We are definitely still in a game state and a wave state where, you know, things are playable. I am a little bit worried about this bot lane. Like I said, the Xayah Rakan, usually pretty good in the 2v2, not so much against Jin Karma. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to establish any sort of priority. And we already talked about how Ninjas in Pyjamas should be able to control the early game. This just really furthers that idea for me. I think this really kind of pushes me in the direction of they should be heavily prioritizing things like Void Grubs as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this is a good start for NIP, and the skirmishing is going to have to continue. You can't take your foot off the gas with the way this team composition is structured. Getting off to early leads, snowballing, finding picks, finding plays. Going to have to continue to be the focus point here. As Aki, again, off to a good start. Continue to try to go for that momentum, clear the entirety of his top side, then goes over to the Scuttle Crab, and then I think immediately he's going to try to find some more action on the map. Might actually run in to Jiejie here. He's going to Hex Slash over the wall to fight the Sejuani. Oh my goodness, he's a madman at this point.
Aki is just playing with no fear. There is absolutely no reservation in his game today, and I think it's absolutely to the benefit of Ninjas in Pyjamas. They have gained so much pressure and priority purely from that Maokai just being able to go anywhere he pleases. Now, definitely worth noting the CS differential on the top side that's already started to generate. I can't imagine that that's going to get better for the Yorick as this continues to go along, but Shanji clearly had an idea that he could be playing into this. I don't imagine this caught him by surprise. We'll see if he has any tricks up his sleeve. For now, just definitely looks like it's going to be in favor of TheShy.
By the way, look at what TheShy has been able to do to this turret. That's 2 plates already down into the Yorick, which is the split pushing, wave pushing champion. Obviously, before he has the maiden at level 6, it's going to be a little bit less impactful. But man, really good start right now for TheShy. You can see the power of this harass in the lane matchup. This is why he was willing to pick it up here in game 3.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing the benefits of Nidalee top here for TheShy. He has showcased those on multiple different pathways, multiple different avenues. But I think if you're an IG fan and you're looking at this, don't get too discouraged that NIP has been pretty active in the early game. They have to be. This is really one of those drafts where you can't really take your foot off the gas if you're Ninjas in Pyjamas. You really need to be the team that's establishing the pressure and controlling the tempo. The longer this thing goes, the worse it gets for you. Dragon has spawned here. It's going to be Mountain first Drake, so no Mountain Soul this game. Of course, Grubs are going to be spawning in 40 seconds. I would expect Invictus to prioritize Drake, and I would expect NIP to prioritize Grubs, but what do I know? Aki has started up on the Mountain Dragon here, and it looks like, once again, NIP will be going for those Dragons.
They could go for both. It's another one of those instances like game number 1 where they could have the timer and actually leaving ppgod getting this wave pushed in early. They'll get the reset and potentially have the opportunity to either help out Aki on this dragon alongside Doinb, who's running down as well, and then maybe make a play towards those grubs. Gala is going to be later to this play as it's leaving ppgod with a really big CS lead early on in this one. It's 16 in their favor.
Yeah, we do see the dragon going down, but significantly different timer to game number 1. Aki is much further behind here, just Maokai not being able to do as much in the early game as the Neferi was able to do in terms of damage on that dragon, and so it looks like it is just going to be a trade, although Doinb is making his way up, and so is ppgod. This could potentially be a contest, but it looks like they're too late for the actual objective.
They could maybe look for the fight, though, as Doinb has stolen away the Emperor's Divide and does have his flash. Looks like doesn't want to go for it, and so instead will just back away. So it is Grubs for Dragon, maybe the opposite of what we were expecting in terms of the priorities for these major objectives for these teams, but looks like it's not going to matter all too much as we're still in a relatively even game state. IG actually just off of TheShy, honestly, have been able to get back into the gold lead just because of the CS advantages.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I think NIP felt so scared to go for Grubs here, or at least to prioritize them heavier than the Dragon. It's mostly because I just don't think they trust that the Yorick can be useful right now in comparison to what TheShy is going to be able to offer in any sort of skirmish or fight as the Nidalee. That definitely is obviously a big contributing factor, but the later this game goes, I think the better those Dragon stacking stats are going to be, and Ninjas in Pyjamas getting a head start on that when they're the comp that I think has more to do in the early game is definitely a positive. Not really a ton to fight for on the map right now. Really, the thing that I'm going to be monitoring and tracking is, can Shanji survive? Can he just stay close to neutral? He doesn't have to be completely neutral. This is a tough matchup, but now that Maiden is here, can he stay within, 10 CS and, stay relevant in the game? It's definitely going to be interesting to monitor. Again, getting Doinb out on the map is going to be huge as well.
Oh, no, the Maiden goes down maybe a little bit earlier than expected here. Shanji, I think a big strength of the Yorick is typically you're able to take down plates, take down turrets very quickly, but so far, obviously has not been the case. Well, I wonder how the matchup continues to go. As we see Shanji get push that instance here, but right now it has been TheShy really dominating this lane, farming up those grass stocks as well, and could potentially get a third plate very, very shortly when this next wave crashes in.
Yeah, this is a very strong Nidalee. This is going to be a bit of a problem. Obviously, you're not as scared of Nidalee as you are maybe in Azir or Xayah moving forward, but if you're kind of looking at every single lane and not necessarily seeing it out in the late game outside of Yorick split pushing, that starts to get a bit concerning, especially because Invictus already does have that gold lead, mostly based off of the Nidalee, but you are winning bot lane, and you're actually winning bot lane by a lot. It's about a 12 CS lead, or a 22 CS lead, I should say. But as we see, we could potentially... Yeah, Shanji not going to take the bait. Jiejie looking to try and capitalize on it, but Shanji a little bit too smart to fall for that one.
I don't even think you win that in a 1v1 at this point. I think he was just trying to get another grass proc off, another Q off, but ends up backing away as TheShy picks up yet another turret plate for himself. 800 gold in the lead, despite it being a 20 CS lead, which is the same as what Leave has right now. The gold definitely more in the hands of TheShy in terms of where things are situated right now. Working towards that Trinity Force, first item, and he's well on his way there with that Phage being picked up.
Yeah, it's getting scarier and scarier for Shanji on the top side, but we can kind of take a look around at what the rest of the team is doing. Of course, these facilitative types of junglers are starting to set up. We see a little bit of an exchange, but nothing major on the bot side. Gala losing a bit of health, but this is really where Sejuani and Maokai kind of fall into line, if you will. No objectives on the map to take, at least for 50 seconds until the rest of those Void Grubs spawn, and no Dragon up. It's not really a priority time for either of these junglers as they continue to clear bot side, clear their way up, and they're going to look to contest. I think establishing pressure early for Aki is going to be pretty massive. Very easy for this Maokai to be able to control that Void Grub pit and be able to secure those 3 grubs if he is there first, but he definitely needs to prioritize that soon.
And Leave, this time alongside ppgod, are here early. Remember, they have been winning out on this 2v2, and so getting first move to the mid lane does make sense, as it will allow for Aki to get to these grubs as well. They'll spawn in about 15 seconds, although Jiejie is also here. And remember, we talked about this the last time the grubs were available. TheShy is still dominating this top side in terms of push, so it should be pretty easy for him to join the fight before Shanji does. Both mid laners currently sent down to the bottom lane. They both have their teleports as the grubs are now made available.
Yeah, we are going to see it started, I would have assumed there, but it's actually going to be top lane that ends up being collapsed upon.
TheShy. He actually is in a little bit of trouble. He's taken relatively low. He's going to be joined here by Jiejie, who throws out the Glacial Prison. Shanji then going to be bursted down. However, he flashes forward for an extra heal off of the Q. And with Aki and the Maiden helping him out, it's going to be NIP surviving at this point. Doinb steals away the Emperor's Divide, sends Rookie backwards and forces him to flash away. So NIP in a very good spot at this point in the fight on both sides of the map as they go right back to the grubs.
Yeah, these should be free grubs here for Ninjas in Pyjamas. There's almost no way for IG to be able to contest this without TheShy in a relatively decent position. He has no health and he has no mana. I say that, but they're backing off here.
Gala.
Gala.
He is completely separated from the rest of his team. He throws out the Featherstorm and the Blade Caller to chunk Aki down to about half HP, and so that actually allows for IG to pick up at least one of these Void Grubs and should be able to get themselves a 5th. Teleport comes in. That is just way too far forward from TheShy as he already gets chunked down to half, and the Curtain Call also gets opened up. She gets canceled, I believe, by Meiko, who jumps forward. That grub is going to get secured, so it's 5-1 in favor of IG.
Yeah, amongst all the chaos, somehow Invictus is actually the one taking 2 of those grubs. It really didn't feel like they had any ground to stand on in that fight. It was a pretty clear 4v3, and their AD carry was disconnected with the rest of their team, but Gala is able to output so much damage so quickly with that ultimate, and as well as keeping himself safe, that it actually really plays into their favor. TheShy is able to teleport back into the mid lane to reestablish pressure there, and all the meanwhile, Jiejie's just taking the grubs and, securing those objectives. Obviously, TheShy helps out with that quite a bit, but that was really well played by Invictus in a situation where I think lesser teams or just lesser setups could have perhaps made it a little bit harder.
Yeah, really, really nicely done as they are able to continue to add to their lead. A lot of that still being towards TheShy, who somehow survived through that entire ordeal. Honestly, both top laners surviving was a little bit surprising to me, as more plates continue to get taken from him. If TheShy can get all 5 plates and that first turret, that'd be pretty incredible for how this laning phase has gone. Just complete domination over Shanji here in Game 3.
Yeah, and it's only getting worse right now because Shanji's not able to get any resources on this York. He's still so far behind. It's a full completed Triforce for this Nidalee. The start's gone. Yeah, this is first turret down. All 5 plates. TheShy is in such a dominant position in this game. You had to know you were opting into this matchup if you were Shanji, but this lead continues to grow. It's about a 35 CS lead and all 5 plates and first turret for TheShy. So definitely enabling him going forward, but Dragon has spawned. That definitely looks to be the next objective to bring up for both of these teams. Invictus is obviously in a much better spot to be able to fight this out. Not only do they have a lot of damage going for them, but look at the gold difference. He's a full 1,200 up on anyone else in the game.
Here's the thing, though, is that when TheShy's not in a fight, NIP actually are on even footing in terms of gold. So that is where they're going to have to try to focus their resources, especially as this Dragon has been started up. Doinb trying to go forward. Gala already at 500 HP, but now TheShy has joined the fight. Nature's Wrath comes out. It'll try to lock down members of IG and force them away as the Dragon is secured by Ninjas in Pyjamas. That is their second, and if anything, it buys them a little bit of time. Make sure that IG cannot just eventually win on this soul.
A really nice call out there that TheShy was not available for that fight. You are entirely correct. They have about equal combat power if that Nidalee isn't there. And if you are playing 4v4, there are some reasons to be concerned. Again, Maokai Ultimate can do a lot of damage in terms of stunning up Azir and Xayah and just giving that extra second for Jhin or Sylas to be able to create for their team. On top of that, I think you have to be a little bit concerned that Gala has not been all that strong throughout this game so far, although that will eventually turn around for the Xayah. You know, you're scaling, but at the end of the day, this isn't a perfect win. This isn't a guaranteed win. You still have to go out there and execute. And it's not like Nidalee can 1v9, so still a lot to play for on the map.
Look at the items on Gala, just a Berserker Creeves and a Warhammer right now. I'm sure he has a little bit more in the bank, but maybe not much at this point. As not necessarily where you want to be as an AD carry almost 15 minutes into a game. The rest of IG, though, is doing good across the map. And I think for NIP, you have to keep finding these picks because that is what your composition does best. It doesn't work well in the extended 5v5, like once we get to the 30-40 minute mark. So I think finding engages, Aki continuing to be active. He hasn't found a kill after that first blood, which was a long time ago at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely been a slower paced game. You know, all things considered, there still have been some action-oriented plays, but 1-0 between these two teams is certainly not what you would think would happen in a game number 3, but we still have a lot of narratives setting themselves up for later on in the game. I really do think that if Jiejie can continue to just slow the pace of the game down, keep Aki from being able to go for a lot of these bigger plays, and as long as IG stays patient and doesn't fall for some of the traps that I'm sure NIP want to set for them, they are honestly in a really nice position to be able to move forward. Those 5 grubs are really going to help them. Not only have they already helped TheShy, but I'm sure they'll help Rookie and Gala moving forward as well. And even with the dragon stacking happening on Ninjas in Pyjamas, while it is an early-ish dragon, I really struggle to find a world where without full prio, NIP is going to actually be able to win a lot of those dragon fights. And with Rift Herald spawning in 10 seconds, and you know we see some priority in the middle of the map for that, I imagine that that's really going to be the next thing for Invictus, but for now, Doinb just stuck under tower.
So the way that NIP can get those dragons would be finding, you know, pick off kills onto people. Maybe you send 4 for TheShy and see what happens, right? Or go towards Gala in the mid lane. And right now, Aki only using that ultimate a couple of times so far in this game, and he's gonna try to at least force something here on the Rift Herald, as not everybody on IG is really here to respond. Also, with TheShy taking a timer to go mid, it actually allows for Doinb and Shanji to take the entirety of this tier 1 turret. So a couple of good plays going towards NIP, and also will be added onto by the taking of this Herald.
Yeah, just some interesting decisions made by IG, but they might not be done with some interesting decisions. We'll see if they want to stick around here. They do not. They're not going to greed for this turret, but just some interesting decisions to give over some things. I'm not necessarily sure you had to sacrifice there. Really did feel like they wanted to try to make a play on Doinb on the bot side in exchange for the Rift Herald, but when Doinb played a little bit safer, there wasn't really a ton to get on the bottom side of the map other than that tier 1 in the bot lane, which Rookie was able to take on his own. Just didn't feel like a perfect allocation of resources. That being said, they're still in a really nice spot, and Rift Herald is only as good as the way you use it. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, but that could potentially be an avenue to get Shanji back into the game if he's able to collect full turret gold from that, or, you know, just allow Doinb in a side lane to be able to have a bit more pressure to distract from Shanji. Multiple different options, but you know, how they use it, I think, is going to matter a lot here as Dragon spawns in about a minute.
Interesting to see the Rift Herald go towards Aki. I feel like sometimes when you're playing like a hyper split pusher, like the Yorick, you'll see them just pick up the Herald so they could try to do something on their own if they get a free wave. But looks like instead NIP want to play for the rest of the team, as they're still down about 1,000 gold, but have been able to at least hold it there at this point. Right now, in terms of the big carries for NIP, Leave very strong. Hasn't gone for the P shooter build, so he's going to pack a little bit more of a punch early, as we are now setting up for that dragon, which will be spawning in about 35 seconds. This would be soul point for NIP if they pick it up, so IG definitely are going to want to try to contest it via a team fight.
Yeah, it definitely would be big for NIP to gather this. That's one of the ways they can offset their lack of immediate damage in the late game, is just entirely through Soul here because it's Infernal. And so it really does help out a lot. But we can see Aki potentially being the target here.
Yeah, it's not enough follow-up just yet, as Gala is still separated, as we actually get to see TheShy getting focused down by Shanji in the 1v1.
Oh,
Flash follows. Is that going to be enough to take him down? One more E should kill him. He heals up, but will smack him down with the Q, and he'll immediately teleport mid lane to join the fight. IG now going to be fighting a 4v5. They might have to give up this dragon up. That was entirely done by Shanji.
That is a gigantic play from Shanji. The Rift Herald gonna get dropped, just maybe as a bit of a distraction here as it goes mid lane, but priority still going to NIP on this Dragon. There's no way to contest this if you're Invictus Gaming, and it's not just a kill on the top side. That is a ginormous shutdown going over to Shanji. So much gold in his pocket, and we could potentially be seeing, I would say, a fight here, but not really a ton to fight for. But that, you're right, 3 Dragons going over to NIP, and a brilliant play to get himself and his team back in the game.
I'm very curious to see how that happened. I mean, TheShy was dominating this lane for so long. He's playing very respectfully, very, very safe. I guess until right now, and he gets hit up by the E. And he
just gets
he
caged
jump
once.
in a little early. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, there's almost no other way to play this. I mean, he was pretty respectful. He burns the flash, but flash follow. There's just so much damage coming out from this Yorick. This champion is much stronger than I think people realize, and this is what's supposed to happen in the mid game when it comes to Yorick versus Nidalee, is that Yorick should just have way more priority, and we see Shanji being able to pull that back. Again, not only is he in a good spot, he's in a really good spot now moving forward, because he's already shown that he can pressure that advantage, and now, instead of TheShy feeling like he's going to be this massive nuisance, it really feels like Shanji is going to be the one that has to be answered regularly on the map.
Fascinating turn of events here, as all of a sudden, now the question has to be raised, like, can TheShy continue to hold Shanji in a side lane? And if not, they're going to have to send Rookie over there, make sure that he is away from the rest of his team. As what happened here? We burn a summoner spell? Yeah. Okay. Cleanse.
Yeah.
Ulti. Nice job.
Indeed.
Oh, wait, hold on. That was almost a kill. Actually, okay.
Yeah, it was a lot closer than I thought. Interesting enough, Gala's had some interesting plays, I think, throughout today. Not had the best of games so far, but your Xayah, you can always pull it back, especially with the Rakan down there in the support position. We've been talking very regularly about how IG scale super easily. We're starting to get to the point where you have to care about the front to back of Sejuani and Rakan with Azir and Xayah as secondary options, even if you're not going to be able to play through the Nidalee. And that's something that, yes, while Shanji is going to be a problem, as long as TheShy can survive in that side lane, I still would give a pretty big advantage over to IG in that regard.
In these mid-game fights, though, I think NIP still are in a good position. A lot of that gold is on the solo laners right now, but Leave, once he finishes off that Infinity Edge, will be very, very powerful. I imagine he gets there before that eventual soul fight. And once you get the soul, I mean, and then you're at that certain amount of lead, then even if you are playing against that 5v5, it should still be favorable here for NIP.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun game state. We're coming down to the wire here. 2 kills across the first 21 minutes of this game. Certainly not, I think, what we expected, but you can't say that they're not locking in and trying their best. But very intrigued to see the Otacon priority here from Invictus. It does look like it's just going to be Jiejie and TheShy trying to take this down. Rookie, of course, making his way up, but we can see a potential collapse coming in from NIP.
Big spikes on the big carries for IG as well. Gala just picked up his Flicker Blades, as well as Rookie, who has 2 items. Looks like that Otacon is just bursting down really quickly. NIP, I feel like they barely even knew this was happening. The Blue Ward just comes out way too late. The Prio will instead be here onto this mid lane tower. They send Doinb in to try to take it down. We also see Shanji pushing down to the bot lane, but now there's false lives on everybody for IG for a potential fight around the Dragon Soul that would go to NIP if they pick it up.
Yeah, that's a massive get for IG. A really nice play there. Jiejie and TheShy just being very confident in starting it basically on spawn. And no real answer, but we see a teleport coming in, potential flank.
Here's Rookie. He has a lot of damage here. He dashes underneath the turret, playing with his life because he knows it's just a false one that takes ppgod down. And with the Dragon spawning about a minute and change, it's a big pick to set up vision around the bottom side.
Yeah, that's the kind of pick that I think this team needs to be making. Quite frankly, that's the kind of pick that I think Ninjas in Pyjamas have needed to make for a little while, but it's a really nice play, very heads up. It's a nice use of the teleport there from Rookie. Should have more than enough time to be able to get back for this fight, and just getting more gold onto the people that need it. Of course, that kill going over to Rakan is not super ideal, but that's the first kill of the game for Invictus, being able to get some sort of snowball going and just getting the Azir a little bit closer to that breakpoint, especially with the giant CS lead that the Azir has, I think is very important now moving forward.
Yeah, he's finally on the board, even though it's just in an assist. Yes, he's been farming up nicely, as you have been alluding to, Kman, and now Aki could be in some trouble getting caught
Ooh.
out by Jiejie. Remember, still the Otacon revives available as Doinb throws out the stolen away Sejuani ulti, looking to do a little bit of damage here, takes Jiejie down, which will send him back to base, and he will still be alive, but that will mean that he will be late
TheShy?
to this dragon spawning. NIP still looking to scrap here. Doinb flashing forward here with the abscond abduct. ppgod following up. NIP going wild here to try to find and engage. They could find another as Meiko will drop, but it gets traded back as Aki is now dead. Just the false lives available, but NIP are running away with this one as Gala has to flash out. Everybody on IG will still be back alive. Rookie in the mid lane, hitting onto this mid lane tier 2, and most importantly, the jungler for NIP is down, which means they cannot play for this dragon.
I would say it's a good play for NIP, but at the end of the day, it's really not. You're basically losing your tier 2 mid for nothing. You're able to pop a lot of those false lives, like you said, but no way to capitalize because your jungler is down. Rookie's going to be able to easily make his way here after taking that mid lane tier 2, and it's the soul going to be delayed by Invictus. You know, this is the huge strength of Otacon. This is the reason that this objective is so prioritized in the current meta, why it felt so important for Jiejie and for TheShy to really prioritize that early, but we're going to get a replay of how this started. It honestly didn't look great for Invictus. Jiejie kind of by himself, TheShy way too far forward. No real damage here for the side of Invictus Gaming. That nice stolen ultimate for Doinb landing, and he just goes down very quickly, kind of accepts his death, realizes that it's probably best to respawn as quickly as possible with that full health, and from this point onwards, I really like the way that NIP end up playing it out. TheShy ends up moving over the wall. This is a great Maokai ultimate from Aki, and he plays super daring throughout a lot of the rest of this fight, being willing to take up basically every bit of CC that the rest of the team can throw out. Gala, just not enough damage, though. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, where, yes, he's able to survive and kind of keep himself there, but it's just not enough to be able to pull it back. And even with all that, like, even when we go into the specifics, none of that was Rookie taking the mid lane tower. None of that was Aki not really being able to, you know, continue to stay on the map, having to take a lot of that CC because he is the front line here for the team. It's just a nightmarish situation and a big win for IG.
Yeah, I mean, you can call out how well Aki, played the start of that team fight, but at the end of the day, him dying prevented the soul from going over to NIP because of the false lives, because, there was no smite available. I think if he lived and sent some of those guys back to base a little bit earlier, you could start up that dragon and try to go for it again. But that was the scrapping power we saw out of NIP, but it kind of was all for naught at a point because nobody on IG ended up quote-unquote dying in it. And so it ends up delaying the game, pushing it back further, allowing for the carries on Invictus Gaming to get stronger and stronger. Rookie now has a Seeker's Arm Guard, Gala has the BF Sword on top of their already 2 completed items, and they'll continue to get stronger as this game progresses.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I think, unfortunately for NIP, if Maokai is not going in, you can't really go in. It's a lot more difficult to make a play because Jin and Karma aren't really going to be those facilitators. It's really just going to be Silas. I think they absolutely should have called it off, and it's that over-eagerness, but Baron is up, and we could potentially be seeing some priority here.
Wow, IG going to start this one. Force Shanji to try to move as he's already hitting onto this bottom lane tier 2 turret. Will he teleport in to join a 5v5, or will he just continue the split push? Teleport is going to be the answer here. But the Baron's already taken down very low. Doinb over the wall. Who's going to go into the pit? It's going to be secured by Jiejie, and the fight has begun in earnest. Doinb steals away the quickness, going to try to just run away for now. Force shot does not go onto a crucial target. Shanji hitting onto TheShy. The W from Leave not going to land. No kills just yet in this one, and a lot of key ultimates already have been used. Both sides are going to back off, and IG get away with highway robbery.
It's Baron 0 for 0. It's the dream scenario for Invictus Gaming. They're able to get in and get out. They burn Shanji's teleport. It's not going to be able to use that in the side lane for the moment moving forward. They don't even have to give up inhibitor to do so, which felt like it was kind of an inevitability at times when he was pushing on that bot side. This is perfect for Invictus Gaming. They continue to scale, and now those playmaking opportunities that you said, and we've talked all game about Ninjas in Pyjamas needing to make, you can't do them. Baron is up. This game can end at any moment. This has become a razor's edge in terms of the margin of error for Ninjas in Pyjamas, and unfortunately, I just don't know how it ends up getting better from here.
Yeah, it's tough. And right now, Rookie very strong as well. You can see the bot lane taking some damage. I think maybe the entirety of the turret ended up going down. I don't see the minimap exactly, but I'm sure that's why we're seeing this replay. During that entire Baron fight, the tier 3 turret was taken in the bottom side, so that is an opening maybe for Shanji to find some more split pushing, but it's not going to be for a while as the Baron buff is still in the hands of IG for the next 90 seconds. Aki's going to have to go for a play. Finds twisted advance onto Rookie. He has to go golden, uses the Emperor's Divide to push that IP away. And I think that should be it. TheShy teleports in just for a little bit of a reinforcement. But the stolen Sejuani ultimate only finds Meiko. Maiden will go down as IG will begin another push.
Yeah, that's so many resources burned by NIP, and just to keep them off for one wave, it's very difficult at this point to really imagine a world. And I know we haven't talked about it much, but that's an almost 80 CS lead for Rookie in the mid lane. That's a 2.3k gold lead by himself, and he's 0-1-1. Like, he's not participating in kills. He's generating all of this in terms of objective and CS pressure, and it's just really like prime Rookie in terms of what he's been capable of doing. Against a player in Doinb who, yes, has been much more active in terms of moving around the map, but you would certainly not expect this kind of advantage for IG.
And it's these two world champion mid laners going at it against each other. It's a matchup that we highlighted going into the day. Rookie against Doinb. And these are the playstyles that helped win them world championships, right? Like Rookie being just a dominant player through and through, but Doinb specifically on these champions that can roam around. He's always willing to sacrifice waves to make plays. But right now, the plays that he's tried to make haven't resulted in much, and that is what has led to IG being down 3,000 kills with Rookie, or sorry, 3,000 gold, not 3,000 kills. Otherwise, the game would be long over.
Yeah, that's less than 15 minutes.
Rookie's the main beneficiary behind all of this, right? He's very, very rich. They're able to pick up the second dragon and prevent the soul for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, and at this point, you know, chances just kind of keep going out the window for NIP. We talked about the soul being a win condition, but now it's kind of flipped on its head. This is an IG team that already has a really strong Azir and a Xayah who's finally getting online, and they're now stacking Infernal Drakes, but Aki on the flank.
This has got to be the fight. Gala already forced to burn the cleanse, as a nice ultimate from Aki does allow for IG to be
Rookie's low.
Forced onto the defensive. Rookie at half HP, as you mentioned. He's going to use the Blast Cone to escape. Not much to fight for in terms of the major objectives, but NIP might want to just continue this push, gain mid priority, and try to take over and reset the map state a little bit.
Yeah, you can see the hesitation in their eyes in terms of that play. They really do not want to full engage and make a game-losing mistake. Aki had a pretty decent position there to be able to try and get the stun onto Rookie, but didn't even really want to go for it, didn't want to step up. I think he is concerned that he was too deep in that previous fight, but we're going to see here if the dance is going to pay off. Still 2 minutes on Baron spawn, so not really a lot to play for here. Don't really see any reason for Ninjas in Pyjamas to try and take a fight, but as much as we talk about IG getting further and further ahead, 2 kills to 2, you know, a 2k gold lead, but as I say that...
They've already found TheShy. He's forced to jump away. Now it is going to be another kill taken down as Meiko will fall. Finally, the feat of warfare secured for Ninjas in Pyjamas. 31 minutes in, TheShy gets caught and Meiko ends up paying for it.
That's a phenomenal catch, and that's what I wanted to talk about there. Ninjas in Pyjamas don't need to get scared. They don't need to start playing as if they're losing. They have to continue to look for these picks. The longer this game goes, and the more that IG gets to establish and determine when these fights start, the worse it's going to get. Picking your own battles and being able to find these avenues to be able to get yourself back in is gigantic, and TheShy just way overextended here.
I just don't understand why that ended up happening, and then Meiko comes in to try to help him out. And he dies, and those are the picks, as we said, that we wanted to see NIP go for. Finding caught-out members, using the Maokai ultimates, and the deadly flourishes proactively. Seems like Doinb is willing to just use himself as a body just to throw at anybody that kind of comes close. But IG have done a good job to make sure that they don't get caught out too much, but they finally do seed over 1 kill with the Baron spawning in less than a minute now.
Yeah, I mean, everything is all up and dandy for IG, so you're not too concerned. This isn't a game-throwing kind of mistake, but this one could be.
Again, caught out. This time TheShy doesn't have the flash,
my God.
And Leave will just shut him down. I don't know how he got caught out there once again, as now the curtain call is going to push Meiko and Gala back. Tier 2 now going to be the focus.
Yeah, and it's not just tier 2. Baron is spawning in 15 seconds. TheShy is down for 42. It's a 4v5 on the map right now, and NIP have full control over what they want to do here. They continue to push out the mid wave, but this Baron is theirs to determine what they want to do with. Absolutely no reason for TheShy to be that pushed up with no flash, and it could really cost Invictus.
He's just running mid lane, trying to go for a flank, I guess. Like throwing out a Q for fun, and then he gets caught up by a trap. Really nice deadly flourish from Leave. And now it's NIP immediately onto the Baron. That's just gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Jiejie doesn't want to go in and sacrifice his life for a potential 50-50, and so that is NIP getting themselves right back into this game.
That is the throw of all throws from Invictus. They were in such a good spot, and it all washes away in 2 plays. We see Jiejie and Aki, running into each other here. I don't imagine this turns into much more, though Aki could be by himself. He flashes over the wall, trying to get to Doinb.
Just trying to escape. He gets charmed up, though, as there comes Jiejie with the Glacial Prison. Gala and Rookie are here, dashing forward onto the Maokai. The tree will get cut down, and so that's 1 trade back that IG can be happy about. But they are facing off against a Baron buff in the hands of their 4 other players of Ninjas in Pyjamas. It's going to make it very hard to do anything off of that kill.
Yeah, Aki just greedily recalling there, not necessarily respecting the fact that, IG is obviously going to go and try and establish more pressure in that area once the Baron has been taken. Just a very weird play overall, but still shouldn't take too much away from Ninjas in Pyjamas. This is a Baron buff Yorick. We have to remember that still exists in this game. As much as we've been talking about the fights and the 5v5s and, Leave really stepping up and being able to catch out TheShy pretty regularly, Yorick is in a better position now than he was 5 minutes ago in terms of how things are set up. But here we go. We could potentially be seeing a consequential fight.
Importantly, none of those major wins for NIP have come in a full-on 5v5. They're picks here, picks there, mostly onto TheShy. Deadly Flourish comes out, doesn't find a root, but the Curtain Call is going to force IG back with the Dragon spawning in 5 seconds. Once again, Soul on the table for NIP if they can pick it up. They send Shanji with the Baron buff and the Maiden down the mid lane, and will instead look to try to just stop the recalls here for IG. Steal not in the works, as it will be the 3rd Infernal picked up for Invictus, but now they have to escape. Jiejie and Rookie dash over the wall. Meiko falls with the grand exit, and now they're just going to try to stop the backs. Doinb chasing forward with the stolen away quickness. TheShy going to be the target, gets hit up by the Abstando Duck. Meanwhile, Shanji still hitting onto the mid lane inhibitor turret. Everybody on IG running for the hills, and NIP are looking to stop him right now. Deadly Flourish connects onto TheShy, and then Italy will get shut down. Inhibitor taken mid. Finally, Rookie able to get back to base, but NIP playing this macro beautifully, and now the bot lane inhibitor can be the next target.
Yeah, this is as perfectly played as you could possibly ask for Ninjas in Pyjamas. Rookie takes forever to get back into the base because at no point can he recall. It's a 4v5.
The ult is at half HP. He gets crit up by Leave. Could this be the end of the game without a full team fight ever taking place? The first Nexus Tower is down. Shanji is still really big with the Maiden, not taking a single tick of damage so far. Finally, they will force the ultimate down, and NIP will have to walk away, but they do take the entirety of a Nexus turret, and it seems like they're not done yet.
Back.
Leave, looking to try to shut down Jiejie. One more 4 shot, might be able to take him down. He goes back into the fountain. There comes the Azir turret, going to try to keep IG's base alive. They have not gone for the fight. They will have to pull the trigger at some point. Finally, they do. Doinb will shove Jiejie back. Meiko dashes away, still not going to die. The Nexus is exposed, and I think can just hit it. They can just win the series right here, right now. Rookie dashing forward. TheShy is respawned. Glacial Prison goes wide, and now here comes TheShy.
Meiko!
Knockup lands in. Doinb will fall, and IG will hold the line.
How did they survive that? The Nexus completely exposed. The healing coming through from Doinb, from Shanji. It felt like they couldn't die. But at some point, the luck, the magic ran out. The healing stops coming through, and Invictus is able to turn the fight. That being said, their entire base is broken open. Teleport not available right now on Doinb or Shanji. They used it to attempt to end the game, but accurately pointed out that this Nexus is completely exposed. IG won the battle. The war continues to rage on, but I'm shocked that we even got there in the first place.
Oh my goodness. It felt like if maybe NIP just completely inted to hit the Nexus as fast as possible, the game could be over. But it also could be over in terms of IG winning, because then it'd be like 2-minute death timers on everybody. It'd be a clean ace most likely. It just got so close, and I wonder what could have happened if maybe they just decided to hit the Nexus, which is now currently exposed. But as you mentioned, Kman, they used all their juice to try to go for it. Shanji and Doinb no longer have those teleports. It's going to be very hard for them to get an opportunity like that again.
Yeah, I mean, and we asked for a banger and we received. This is what we were looking for. Reminder, this is a 5-kill to 5-kill game between these two teams at the current moment. It feels so much more bloody and deadly than that because the action has been so chaotic and crazy between these two teams. But Ninjas in Pyjamas have definitely set themselves up in the best possible spot. The most noteworthy thing, Baron spawning in a minute here. There is no way that IG is going to be able to contest that under the threat of their Nexus being exposed. Even beyond that, it's Soul for both teams in 1 minute and 40 seconds. That is a gigantic objective. And right now, I just don't see an easy way for IG to be able to compete with that, with all of the things that are set up. But in this game, you never really know how things are going to go.
Yeah, I mean, it was sole point for NIP for so long. It was 3-0 Dragon lead, and they're about to potentially blow it like the 2004 Yankees. If IG are able to get this one here in 1 minute and 20 seconds, it's going to be up for the taking, but you know the Super Minions going to continue to crash in. IG have to make sure their waves are reset. They have to worry about Shanji on the split push as well. As the Super Minions will still be able to do a lot of work here. As before the Dragon actually came in, we have to worry about this Baron. It's spawning in 15 seconds. That seems to be NIP's focus. They're all across the top side with a big load of traps actually set up right around that bush.
Yeah, this is such a scary situation for Invictus because one wrong move, one pick off, and the game is over. Jiejie is going to have to be the only one who can walk up here, but the ult's going to go wide.
It hits my fridge. Deadly Flourish goes in onto the Sejuani. Jiejie goes down. It's a shutdown picked up for leave. And now Gala is going to try to do some work here. Knockup gets canceled. Shanji picks up the kill. And IG might be cooked here in this team fight. TheShy is down. Only Rookie's alive. And there's no way he can 1v5 this one. He's going to try to clear out the wave using the Emperor's Divide. But it is sure to cost him his life. He will fall. The kill goes over to leave. 720 gold, just the icing on top of the cake as NIP. I think they have done it. A wave is pushing in on the bot side. Both Nexus towers have respawned, but the death timers are far too long. This is sure to be it.
This is a gigantic victory for Ninjas in Pyjamas. Look at the expression of Doinb. Look at the expression of Leave. Everyone on Ninjas in Pyjamas, you can see just how much this means to them, but they're stuck in base right now. They need to wait for some time there, but the Nexus is eventually going to get exposed. And Ninjas in Pyjamas with the 2-1.
What a win for them. It was a 3-1 for them earlier on in Split 1. And in Split 2, they once again get the victory over IG. Doinb beats Rookie, and Rookie has to watch his old teammates bow in front of the stage without him.
A brutal way to lose for Invictus. All 3 games, both teams held a lead, gold-wise. That has to be the case, right? Like a substantial
surely.
one?
Yeah.
Surely.
Substantial, not necessarily. I think it was probably like 2K for each team back in game 2, but it was such a back and forth game, every single one of them. And NIP end up